Welcome to Book Summary Podcast, your gateway to personal transformation. Each episode delivers big ideas from the world's most impactful books on mindset, productivity, and success, all in just a few minutes. Ready to turn knowledge into action? Let's get started.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've been digging into this fascinating set of source materials you sent over about building wealth and achieving financial independence.
That's right. And today, we're really zeroing in on a critical part of that journey.
Yeah, specifically what the sources call Step 6. This idea of building the American dream on a shoestring. Seems kind of provocative, doesn't it?
It is. And look, this part is for you if you've already put in the work, steps 1 through 5. Tracking your spending, figuring out that real hourly wage, all that groundwork.
Right, the conscious effort.
Exactly. So now step 6 isn't about grinding harder or feeling deprived. It's actually something deeper. It's about consciously, maybe even radically, changing your relationship with money itself.
Moving away from just more is better.
Precisely. Moving toward finding this liberating idea the sources call enough.
Okay, but before we jump into the how, let's just quickly recap that foundation. Financial independence, or FI, the big goal.
Yeah, and the core idea behind it, according to these sources, is pretty simple but powerful. Money is what you get in exchange for your life energy.
Your time, basically, the hours of your life.
Your finite time on Earth, yeah. So FI means building up enough capital, enough investments, so that income from that capital covers your expenses. You don't have to trade your time for money anymore.
Freedom, temporal freedom.
That's the promise. And step 6 is about tackling the main reason people get stuck, this myth that you always need more stuff to be happy. Which brings us to this concept of the fulfillment curve.
Yes, the fulfillment curve. I found this really insightful. So picture a graph, right? Spending is on the bottom axis, moving left to right. And happiness or fulfillment is on the vertical axis, going up.
Right. So when you start spending money on basic survival needs, food, shelter, basic clothes, your fulfillment shoots up really fast.
Makes sense. You're meeting fundamental needs.
Absolutely. High return on investment there. Then, as you start adding maybe comforts, niceties, small luxuries, the curve keeps going up, but maybe not as steeply. It starts to flatten out a bit.
Okay, still getting happier, but the rate is slowing down.
Exactly. And then you hit this peak.
Yeah.
The absolute top of the curve. This is the point of maximum fulfillment. You've got everything you truly need, maybe some things you genuinely enjoy, but nothing extra, nothing weighing you down.
The sweet spot? Enough.
That's it. And right after that peak, this is where the trouble starts. The curve begins to dip down.
So spending more actually makes you less fulfilled.
That's the radical idea here. Everything you acquire beyond that peak is what the sources call clutter. And clutter isn't just, physical stuff piling up.
It's more than that.
Oh, yeah. It's anything that gives you decreasing returns on your happiness. Reese, it actively works against your freedom.
Give me an example. How does, say, a bigger house become clutter?
Well, think about it. A bigger house means higher property taxes, right? Higher insurance, more heating and cooling costs.
More furniture to buy, more rooms to clean.
More maintenance. Maybe you need a lawn service. Maybe you start worrying about upkeep or security. It demands more of your time, more of your money, more of your mental energy, long after the initial excitement of buying it wears off.
So that vacation condo you mentioned earlier, if you rarely use it, it's not really an asset adding to your life.
According to this framework, no. It's a clutter generator. It costs you twice. First, the life energy you spent to earn the money to buy it.
Okay.
And second, the ongoing life energy needed just to maintain it, pay taxes on it, worry about it. The sources are pretty blunt. They say you end up working more, making it dying, just to support your excess stuff.
Wow. Making it dying, that's stark.
It is. So step 6 is the practical game plan. How do you find that peak on your curve, and how do you learn to live there happily, securely?
And living there seems to involve embracing a word that, frankly, makes a lot of people uncomfortable.
Frugality.
Yeah.
Let's talk about frugality. Because in, mainstream American culture, it often gets a bad rap, it sounds like scarcity, deprivation, maybe even being miserly.
It absolutely does. And the sources argue pretty strongly that this negative image is, well, partly a result of marketing and consumer culture. We need to really push back on that and redefine it.
Okay, so what's the alternative definition?
True frugality in this context isn't about lack at all. It's about mastery. It's about efficiency. The definition they use is achieving a high joy-to-stuff ratio.
High joy-to-stuff ratio. I like that. So it's about maximizing happiness per dollar spent, not just minimizing dollars spent.
Precisely. It's about being a good steward of your resources, your money, yes, but also your time, your energy, your possessions, using them wisely to get the most genuine fulfillment.
The sources brought in that Spanish concept, aprovechar. Tell us about that. Aprovechar. Yeah, it's a great word because it captures this idea perfectly. It means like to make good use of something, to take full advantage of it, to get the full value.
So not limiting yourself, but focusing.
Exactly. Focusing your resources where they deliver the most value. Think about cooking. If you buy good ingredients and use them completely, you make stocks from the bones, you use the vegetable scraps, you turn leftovers into something new and delicious that's aprovechando.
You're respecting the resource and getting the maximum benefit.
Right. It feels abundant, skillful, even succulent, as the source puts it, not stingy or deprived. Frugality, seen this way, is about appreciation and resourcefulness.
That makes a huge difference. So buying a really expensive, high-quality tool that you use constantly for years could actually be more frugal than buying a cheap one that breaks quickly.
Absolutely. Because the value isn't just the initial price tag, it's the cost per use, or the cost per joy moment over its entire lifespan. Waste isn't about spending money. It's about spending money on things that don't deliver lasting value or utility.
Okay, that reframing is powerful. But if it's such a good idea, why does it feel so hard for people? Why the resistance?
Well, the sources point to this massive cultural force working against it, the consumption trap. And they make a really interesting point about its origins.
Which is?
That modern consumerism, this relentless drive to acquire, isn't necessarily human nature. It was, to a large extent, a 20th century invention.
Really? How so?
Well, think about it. Before mass production really took off, people were seen primarily as citizens, maybe workers, producers. But as factories started churning out goods faster than ever, corporations faced a problem. How do you ensure enough demand?
They needed people to buy all that stuff.
Exactly. So there was a conscious effort through advertising and marketing to shift the identity from citizen to consumer. A consumer literally is someone who uses things up, wastes, destroys. The goal was to make people feel like they needed new things constantly, partly to keep the economic engine going, partly tied to status.
So it's kind of engineered, this feeling of needing more.
That's the argument. We're swimming in an environment designed to make us consume.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest symptoms of this is what sociologist Thorstein Veblen called conspicuous consumption.
Right. Spending money just to show off, basically.
Pretty much.
Yes, sir.
Spending time and money, not because you need or even truly want something, but primarily to signal your status, to impress other people. It's often a fruitless, endless cycle.
And the sources offer a really simple, direct way to combat this, don't they?
They do. Maybe the first and most powerful way to save money instantly. Stop trying to impress other people.
It sounds almost too simple, but when you think about it...
It's incredibly liberating.
Yeah.
Because the irony, as the sources point out, is that the people you're working so hard to impress, they're often too busy worrying about their own status and trying to impress you or someone else to even notice your fancy car or designer watch.
Huh. So everyone's playing this game, but nobody's really watching the other players that closely.
Largely, yes. The pressure is mostly internal or imagined. Once you step off that treadmill, a huge chunk of potential spending just disappears.
Okay, so that tackles the big status spending, but what about the smaller, maybe more insidious leaks? The everyday stuff.
Ah, yes. That brings us to the problem of unconscious spending. The sources have a fantastic term for this. Gazinga's pins.
The Gazinga's pin, explain that one.
The Gazinga's pin is any item, big or small, that you just can't seem to pass by without buying. It's that little gadget near the checkout, the extra pair of shoes that are kind of like ones you already have, the special offer online.
The impulse buy?
Exactly. It's often unconscious, almost robotic spending. Our brains love patterns, and retailers are experts at creating environments. Those end caps, the recommended for you, that trigger these habitual purchases.
You walk into that zone and bam, you buy something without really thinking.
Right. And the sources mention it gets worse with decision fatigue. You've made tons of choices all day, your willpower is low, and grabbing that Gazinga's pin gives you a quick, easy little dopamine hit. It feels good for a second.
And the data backs this up, right? That survey mentioned showed it's a widespread issue.
Oh, absolutely. Something like 75% of American adults admitted to making impulse buys. And often, the triggers weren't just excitement. They were emotional boredom, sadness, anger, especially for women. Men reported it more when maybe drunk or angry.
And the kicker.
Half of them felt regret later. Serious regret when the bill came. That regret is a direct signal of wasted life energy. Money spent, no lasting value received.
So what's the fix for gazingas pins and impulse buys?
It takes conscious effort. You have to develop what the sources call the frugality muscle. This means actively practicing buying only what you truly need or what genuinely aligns with your deep fulfillment.
It means recognizing those trigger moments and making a different choice.
Yes, avoid using shopping as therapy, as a reward, as entertainment. You have to consciously interrupt that automatic pattern. It's like strengthening any muscle. It takes practice.
Okay, so we've got the mindset shift frugality as joy harvesting, not deprivation. And we've identified the enemies conspicuous consumption and gazingas pins. Now let's get really practical. What are the specific tactics the sources lay out? All right, let's dive into these 9 specific strategies for saving money that come from the source material. They seem to fall into a few logical groups. Let's start with the ones focused on managing what we consume and what we already own.
Okay, so the second strategy listed, we'll circle back to number 1, debt, later because it's huge, is honor your own scale of fulfillment.
Point 2. This ties directly back to that fulfillment curve we talked about.
Exactly. It's about asking yourself, before you buy something, will this purchase genuinely increase my personal level of happiness or fulfillment? If the answer is no, or just a fleeting maybe, then spending that money is essentially wasting your life energy.
The sources challenge you to be really honest here. Like, if you have a closet full of clothes but still feel like you have nothing to wear, buying another dress probably isn't the answer, right?
Right. The thrill of getting the new thing is overriding the actual joy of having and using it. Honoring your scale means tracking the real value you get. Think about cost per use, or maybe cost per hour of joy.
So $100 on a fancy dinner you barely remember might be low value.
But $100 on hiking boots that enable years of joyful weekend hikes could be incredibly high value, very frugal, even though the initial cost is the same. It's about aligning spending with genuine, lasting satisfaction.
Okay, that makes sense. And that leads nicely into point 3, take care of what you have.
Yes, this is huge. We're so programmed to desire the new that we often neglect the things we already spent our life energy to acquire. And that neglect is expensive.
How so?
Well, think about basic self-care. We brush our teeth, maybe try to eat well, exercise. The sources say we need to extend that same principle to our possessions, your car, your appliances, your tools. They aren't self-healing.
Ignoring that weird noise in the engine or not cleaning the lint trap in the dryer
is just setting yourself up for a much bigger, much more expensive problem down the road. Regular maintenance oil changes, cleaning filters and coils, sharpening blades extends the life of your things dramatically.
Which means you don't have to spend your life energy replacing them nearly as often. That saves potentially thousands over time.
Thousands. It's a fundamental shift from a throwaway mindset to a stewardship mindset. And related to that is point 5, do it yourself, DIY.
Ah, DIY. This one can be tricky. Doesn't it often take way more time than just paying someone? How do the sources weigh time versus money here, especially if you earn a high wage?
That's a really important question. The sources aren't saying you should, spend 20 hours fixing something you hate doing just to save $100. It's more strategic than that.
Okay.
It's about developing basic competence and self-reliance, partly to save money on simple tasks, but maybe more importantly, to protect yourself from being ripped off or feeling helpless when something breaks.
So knowing enough to diagnose a simple plumbing leak, even if you call a pro, saves you from blindly accepting an expensive, unnecessary repair.
Exactly. It's about empowerment. The anecdote about the woman with the broken heating system is perfect here.
Remind us of that one.
Her furnace died. She called 3 different repair companies, got 3 totally different diagnoses, all costing thousands for major replacements. She felt overwhelmed, vulnerable.
Yeah, that's a terrible feeling.
So she stopped. She spent a few evenings online researching her specific furnace model, looking up the symptoms. She formed an educated guess about what might be wrong, a relatively minor component.
Okay.
When she called the 4th company, she didn't just say, it's broken. She said, here are the symptoms. I suspect it might be this part. Can you check that first? They did. She was right. And the repair cost hundreds, not thousands.
Wow. So her DIY research saved her a fortune even though she didn't physically fix it herself.
Precisely. That competence, that ability to engage intelligently with service providers, that is a huge part of the DIY value proposition.
Yeah.
It's using your brain to save life energy, not just your hands.
That's a powerful reframe. Okay, let's shift gears to the second group of strategies. These are about how to be smart when you do actually need to buy something. Strategic acquisition.
Right. This starts with point 6. Anticipate your needs. This sounds simple, but it's the antidote to expensive impulse buys and convenience store rip-offs.
Because if you don't plan, your need suddenly appears when you're unprepared, forcing you to pay top dollar.
Exactly. Think about groceries. If you don't have a list or plan meals, you end up making extra trips, buying things you don't need, or running to the corner store for that one ingredient at twice the price. Anticipation means keeping track of what you have, knowing what you'll need soon, and watching for sales.
And for bigger things, like a car or computer.
Timing is key. Waiting for the new models to come out often means you can snag last year's model, which is usually almost identical for a huge discount. That requires patience and forethought, but the savings are massive. It kills that frantic, gotta-have-it-now energy.
Okay, anticipation. Next is point 7, and this one fights against a common instinct. Research value, quality, durability, multiple use, and price. We often just grab the cheapest option, right?
We do, but the sources argue that cheap can be really expensive over time. This point is about looking beyond the initial price tag. Is it well-made? Will it last? Does it have a good warranty?
So spending $40 on a quality tool with a lifetime warranty might be way more frugal than spending $30 on one that breaks in 2 years, forcing you to buy another.
Exactly. Calculate the cost per use or cost per year. And another key aspect here is multiple use. Can one high-quality item do the job of several cheaper, specialized gadgets?
Like the example of one really good heavy-duty pot replacing a rice cooker, a slow cooker, maybe even a deep fryer.
Right, that reduces clutter, saves money, and simplifies your life. It requires a bit more research up front, maybe reading reviews on specialized sites, not just Amazon looking for tests of durability, but it pays off hugely.
It's a more sophisticated kind of frugality. Now, point 8 seems obvious, buy it for less. But the real kicker here is the emphasis on buy it used.
Oh, this is a game changer for accelerating FI. Think about a new car. The sources cite that it can lose up to 20% of its value the moment you drive it off the lot.
Ouch. That's potentially thousands of dollars, months of your work. Your life energy just vanished.
Instantly. By committing to buying used cars, used furniture, used tools, used clothes, you let someone else pay for that steepest part of the depreciation curve.
We need to get over this cultural hang-up about everything needing to be brand new and shrink-wrapped, don't we?
Absolutely. I mean, most of us live in used houses. We use used roads, check out used library books. Extending that to other areas of life is just smart. Online marketplaces, thrift stores, consignment shops, local buy-nothing groups. These are treasure troves.
And you mentioned the non-monetary exchanges, too, like FreeCycle?
Yeah, the sharing economy. If you just need something for a short time or a small amount of something, often someone in your community has it and is happy to lend or give it away. Meets the need, costs $0, builds community, win-win-win.
Okay, powerful stuff. Now for the last group of strategies, which feel a bit more philosophical, starting with point 9, meet your needs differently. Substitution.
This goes right back to the fulfillment curve again. It recognizes that our deepest human needs, things like respect, connection, identity, excitement, love, are psychological or spiritual.
Oh, material.
Right. But we often try to patch over those needs with material things. Feeling bored, buy something new. Feeling disconnected, buy something to fit in. Feeling stressed, retail therapy.
And it doesn't really work, does it? The feeling comes back.
Exactly. It's a false solution. Substitution means recognizing the real need underneath the urge to buy. If you're feeling depleted, maybe the answer isn't a new gadget, but genuine rest or exercise or spending quality time with someone or doing something creative or helping someone else.
So swap the ineffective material fix for an activity that actually nourishes the underlying need.
Precisely. It's about choosing activities high on the fulfillment curve instead of low-return consumption. Maximize life, not things.
And finally, slipped into the middle there as point 4, but maybe the most foundational of all, get out of debt and stay out.
Oh man, this one is critical. The sources call high-interest debt the great dream destroyer. And it's true.
Why so destructive?
Because it anchors you. It forces you to keep trading your life energy, often in jobs you dislike, just to feed the interest payments. You're working to make the banks richer, not to build your own freedom. It makes that making a dying phrase literal.
So the advice is pretty stark.
Very. Get rid of consumer debt as aggressively as possible. Cut up the credit cards, or if you must use them for points or convenience, treat them like debit cards. Pay the balance in full. Every single month. No exceptions. The moment you carry a balance, the interest negates any benefit.
And the story of Tanya N. really drives this home.
Yeah, she had $26,000 in debt, felt trapped.
Yeah.
But she embraced this program, got intentional. She made a big sign for her progress chart, on my way to debt-free. And by applying these frugal principles, focusing her energy, she paid it all off in just 2 years.
And she said she didn't feel deprived doing it.
No, because every choice was conscious, aligned with her big goal of freedom. It became empowering, not restricting. That shift is everything.
Okay, so those 9 strategies give us the tools. But to really move the needle on the shoestring dream, we need to apply them to the biggest expenses, right?
Exactly. You can optimize coffee spending all day long, but if your housing and car costs are through the roof, you won't get far. We need to tackle the big 3. #Tag5E, targeting major American expenses.
Right, because pinching pennies on small stuff doesn't matter as much if the big rocks aren't in the right place. The sources really hammer this home. Housing, transportation, and health are where the massive savings potential lies for most Americans.
Let's start with housing. It used to be, maybe aim for 25% of your income for shelter. But the sources show that now, for many, it's creeping up to 40% or even more once you factor in mortgage or rent, plus taxes, insurance, utilities, maintenance.
That's a huge chunk of life energy going just to keep a roof over your head. And part of that is this trend towards bigger and bigger houses, isn't it?
Definitely. The average new home size exploded over the last few decades. We went from around 1,600 square feet in the 70s to nearly 2,700 square feet more recently.
More space equals more cost. Heating, cooling, furnishing, cleaning, taxes. It all scales up.
And more potential for clutter. So the most impactful strategies here are often structural, though they can be challenging. Things like consciously choosing to live in a smaller space or relocating to a lower cost of living area if possible, or exploring options like co-housing or intentional communities.
But what if moving isn't feasible right now? Are there other levers?
Yes. Leveraging what you already have. If you own a home with extra space, could you rent out a room, maybe turn a basement into an apartment? Or consider buying a duplex and living in one side while renting the other, house hacking. That can drastically cut or even eliminate your housing payment.
And then there was that amazing story about the retired woman who became a house sitter.
Oh yeah, that's brilliant. She realized that even owning her home outright was still costly taxes, insurance, unexpected repairs, just the time commitment. So she sold it.
And instead of buying smaller,
she used her reputation for reliability and became a professional house sitter. She lived, often for free, in beautiful homes in great locations while the owners were away. She completely eliminated her housing costs and the burden of ownership, gaining freedom and, ironically, access to luxury she didn't have to pay for.
That's thinking outside the box. Okay, second huge expense, transportation, usually the car, right?
The car. For most Americans, it's the second biggest purchase after a house. And the costs just keep coming. Payments, insurance, gas, repairs, maintenance, and that killer depreciation we talked about.
It adds up incredibly fast.
So the FEI approach here is to rigorously question the need. Do you really need 2 cars? Could you manage with 1? Could you potentially go car-free, especially if you live somewhere with decent alternatives?
Like using ride-sharing, public transport, maybe a car-sharing service?
Exactly. You have to run the numbers, honestly. The story of Rosemary I is a great example. She lived in a city, sold her only car.
Bold move.
Yeah, but then she tracked everything. Weekly car rentals for big errands, ride shares for specific trips, using public transit. She found the total cost was way, way less than owning no insurance premiums, no surprise repair bills, no car payments, eating her income.
So she still had mobility, just through different, more strategic means.
And less hassle. No worrying about parking, maintenance schedules. It's about meeting the need, getting around differently, often more cheaply, and with less stress.
Okay. Housing, transportation. The third big one, especially in the U.S., is healthcare and prevention.
Yeah, this one's tough because the U.S. system is notoriously expensive and complex. The sources are really direct here. Your absolute best financial strategy for healthcare is prevention.
Meaning?
Staying healthy, good diet, regular exercise, enough sleep, managing stress. These aren't just lifestyle choices. In the U.S. context, they are critical financial choices because getting seriously ill can be financially catastrophic.
So prevention first. What about managing costs within the system?
Maximize whatever preventive benefits your insurance offers. The free checkups, screenings, catching things early is almost always cheaper and better. Also, consider your insurance plan carefully. If you're generally healthy, a high deductible plan might save you a lot on premiums.
But you need savings to couple that deductible if something happens, right? Right.
Absolutely. You need that cushion, that emergency fund we talked about in other steps. It's a calculated risk. You're betting on your health to lower monthly costs, but you need the backup. And definitely comparison shop for procedures if you can. Prices can vary wildly.
The sources mention medical tourism, but with a warning?
Right. Getting procedures done overseas can be dramatically cheaper, sometimes 80–90% less. But if there are complications after you get home, the cost of fixing things in the U.S. system can wipe out all those savings and then some. It needs very careful research and risk assessment.
And that story about Kathy and Langdon L. and their jewelry insurance, that really illustrates applying the frugality mindset here, too.
It does. They're paying like $6 a month to insure some heirloom jewelry. They stopped and asked why. They realized the jewelry's value was purely sentimental. If it got stolen, they wouldn't replace it. They'd be sad, but the money wouldn't fix it.
So the insurance was just consolation money.
Exactly. Pointless consolation money. They figured out how much capital they'd need invested to earn $6 a month in interest and decided to put that $6 towards building that capital instead. They dropped the insurance. It's about questioning every expense, even small ones, against its real value to you.
That same kind of sharp thinking applies to the last major category, family and college costs.
Huge potential expense, especially college. The recommendations focus on being strategic from the start. Can you get college credits in high school through AP or CLEP tests?
Start at a community college for the first 2 years.
Yep, save a ton that way. Or use running start programs if available. And then there's that interesting side effect of frugality.
The financial aid paradox.
Right. If you've successfully embraced frugality and are content living on less income, you might have fewer reportable assets. This can mean you qualify for significantly more need-based financial aid.
So counterintuitively, a fancy private college could end up costing less out of pocket than a state school.
It's possible, depending on the aid package. You have to run the numbers for each specific situation. Kathy and Langdon had a clear policy with their kids. We'll pay the equivalent of in-state tuition. If you want to go somewhere more expensive, you need to figure out how to cover the difference through scholarships, work, or loans.
Teaches financial responsibility early on.
Exactly. So tackling these big three, housing, transportation, health, plus planning for education, these are the moves that really enable that shoestring lifestyle without deprivation. They create the space, the financial margin to breathe.
Okay, so step 6 is all about mastering the outflow, right? Becoming incredibly efficient and intentional with how our life energy, our money, leaves us. Plugging the leaks, optimizing spending for joy.
That's the core of it. Reducing expenses, living well on less, finding that peak of the fulfillment curve.
Which naturally leads to thinking about the other side of the equation.
The inflow. Exactly. Once you've gotten a handle on your spending and significantly lowered your cost of living, the next logical step in this FA program, step 7, is to look at how you earn your money, how you bring that life energy in.
And this involves another pretty fundamental shift in thinking, doesn't it? Breaking the automatic link between the work we do and the wages we receive.
It really does. The sources push us to make a crucial distinction in terminology. Paid employment, your job is simply what you do for money.
Just the transaction.
Just the transaction. Whereas work, with a capital W, is defined as something much bigger. Whatever you do that aligns with your deeper purpose, your values, your calling, it might be paid, it might not be.
So separate job from work. Why is that separation so important?
Because it changes how you evaluate your job. If your paid employment is just about getting paid, since your true work might lie elsewhere, then the primary goal becomes maximizing the income you receive for the precious life energy you're trading.
Get paid as much as possible for your time, basically.
Exactly. Assuming, of course, the job doesn't violate your core values or harm your health. But the focus shifts to optimizing that transaction. Are you being compensated fairly? Could you earn more elsewhere? Are you getting the best possible return for selling hours of your life?
So step 6 is about minimizing the outflow, frugality, and step 7 is about maximizing the inflow, income.
That's the powerful combination.
Yeah.
You create the largest possible gap between your income and your lowered expenses.
And that gap, that's the fuel for FI.
That's the accelerator. The bigger that gap, the more capital you can accumulate and invest each month, and the faster you race towards the ultimate goal, described in step 8, the crossover point.
Ah, the crossover point. the magic moment.
It is pretty magical. That's the point where the income generated passively from your investments becomes equal to or greater than your monthly expenses, which you've carefully tracked and optimized in steps 1 to 6.
And once you hit that point,
Paid employment becomes completely optional. You've bought back your time. You are financially independent. Step 6 is crucial because the lower you make that expense line, the lower the crossover point target becomes, and the sooner you can reach it.
so wrapping up this deep dive into Step 6, the American Dream on a Shoestring, the big takeaway really seems to be that frugality isn't about misery or cheapness.
Not at all. It's about intentionality, efficiency, and actually increasing your joy by shedding the unnecessary stuff, the clutter that weighs you down and drains your life energy.
And focusing on the big wins, strategically managing housing, transportation, and health costs makes a far bigger impact than just sweating the small stuff.
Absolutely. Those are the structural keys. But the sources also remind us that focusing only on money, on traditional financial independence, might miss part of the picture.
Right. We usually think about the pillars of FI as capital, your investments, cushion, emergency savings, and cash, savings for big future goals.
But there's another kind of wealth, another kind of independence, maybe better, called financial interdependence. It's based on what the sources call natural currency, and it also rests on 3 pillars, the ABCs.
Okay, what are the ABCs of natural currency?
A stands for abilities. This is your personal toolkit, your skills, your knowledge. The DIY skills we talked about, cooking from scratch, gardening, fixing things, negotiating, teaching.
Things you can do that meet needs without money.
Exactly. Your competence is a form of wealth that can't be inflated away. The more you can do for yourself and others, the less money you strictly need.
Okay, A is abilities. What's B?
B is belonging. This is about your network, your relationships, who walks with you. Strong friendships, supportive family, trusted neighbors, community groups, your social fabric.
Why is that financial?
Because isolation is expensive. When you face a crisis, illness, job loss, unexpected event, a strong support network provides help, resources, and resilience that money often can't buy or can only buy at great cost. Sharing burdens makes everyone richer.
Makes sense. Abilities, belonging. What's C?
C is community. This refers to the shared resources and infrastructure around you. Public libraries, parks, schools, tool lending libraries, the sharing economy platforms, community gardens.
Things we all have access to that reduce the need for individual ownership.
Precisely. A strong community infrastructure provides a baseline level of wealth and opportunity for everyone, reducing the pressure to accumulate everything individually. Less clutter, more shared abundance.
So true wealth isn't just about the size of your bank account.
Not according to these sources. It's a blend. Financial capital is essential for FI, but weaving your life beneficially with others, sharing your abilities, nurturing belonging, leveraging community makes you resilient and rich in ways money alone can't measure. The more interconnected and resourceful you are, the less money you ultimately need to live a full and secure life.
Okay, that's a fantastic perspective to end on. So here's a final thought for you, our listener. Building on everything we've discussed today, we've all been sort of trained to think, I need to buy stuff to keep the economy going. It's patriotic. But these sources argue that buying things you don't need or that don't bring you joy isn't patriotic. It's just a waste of your precious life energy. Now that you have that frame and you understand the true cost of clutter beyond the price tag, what's one purchase? Maybe something big, maybe something small, maybe even a recurring subscription that you will consciously choose to postpone, or perhaps eliminate entirely starting today, specifically to honor your own life energy. Think about it.
Thanks for tuning in to the Book Summary Podcast. If you found value in today's episode, hit that like button, subscribe for more summaries, and share it with someone who's ready to grow. Want deeper insights, exclusive book notes, and reading tips? Join our free newsletter. The link's in the description. And don't forget, if you'd like to read the full book, our affiliate link is right below. It helps support the channel and keeps the summaries coming. Until next time, keep reading, keep growing.